I am Dr. Jesse John, Assistant Professor, Department of Anatomy, Jyoti Vidyapith Women's University, Jaipur. Today we will discuss anatomy of the umbilicus. Namaste, हमेशा खुश रहो बिटिया. Umbilicus is an inconstant landmark. In the healthy adult, it lies at the junction of the L3 and L4 vertebra. It is lower in the infant, and naturally, when the abdomen is pendulous, it is higher in late pregnancy. So you can see the location of the umbilicus in a healthy individual. Again, you can see here. Umbilicus is tightly attached to the underlying fascia. It contains vestige of the allantois and umbilical arteries and umbilical vein, which can be seen on the posterior aspect of the anterior abdominal wall, and the inferior epigastric arteries form the lateral umbilical ligaments. Circulation. The following embryological entities are found at the umbilicus: left umbilical vein, vitellointestine duct, and vitelline artery and vein, and urachus, and two umbilical arteries. So these are the circulatory things that found at in embryology and sometime remaining at the adult stage. Umbilicus is the obvious feature. This puckered scar represents the former site of attachment of the umbilical cord. In physically fit people, the umbilicus lies at the level of the intervertebral disc between the L3 and L4 vertebrae. This is midway between the gyphoid process and the pubic symphysis. So we can say this is the midway between the gyphoid process and the pubic symphysis. Now we'll see the fascia. Above the umbilicus, it contains fat and connective tissue fibers as a single layer of the tissue. Below the umbilicus, it is divided into two layers. One is subcutaneous Kemper fascia, and another is deeper Scarpa fascia. Scarpa fascia is membranous deep layer of the superficial fascia. Scarpa fascia is continuous with the superficial perineal fascia and attaches to the fascia lata. Scarpa fascia is used for suturing the subcutaneous fascia in repair of anterior abdominal wound. In rupture of the urethra, urine can extravasate between the scarpa fascia and the fascia of the muscle of the anterior abdominal wall as high as the axilla. So you can see here the definitive connecting stalk between the embryo or fetus and the placenta at birth. It is primarily composed of Watten's genie in which the umbilical vessels are embedded. So this is the rings. So this is the opening in the linea alba through which the umbilical vessel of the fetus. Now we'll see the umbilical area. Embryologically, the umbilicus is midline fusion of the medial aponeurotic border of the both rectus abdominis aponeurosis around the umbilical cord. This fusion may take place around the 10th week after the herniated midgut returns to the peritoneal cavity. Now we'll see the attachment at the umbilicus. The median umbilical fold extends from the apex of the urinary bladder to the umbilicus and covers the median umbilical ligament, the remnant of the urachus. We join the apex of the fetal bladder to the umbilicus. Two medial umbilical folds lateral to the median umbilical fold cover the medial umbilical ligaments formed by occultate parts of the umbilical arteries. Two lateral umbilical folds, lateral to the medial umbilical folds, cover the inferior epigastric vessels and therefore bleed if cut. We can see vitelline duct, umbilical vein, and urachus. Again, you can see in more clearly. Now we'll see the structures associated with umbilical cord and umbilicus. And in the primitive Buddhist stalk, there is yolk stalk, extraembryonic xylem, coelom, and herniated intestine, vitelline arteries, vitelline veins, allantois, umbilical arteries, umbilical veins, and differentiate mesenchyme. An umbilical absent or vestigial extraembryonic coelom that is present absent at umbilicus and neonatal abdomen that is present none herniated structure at the umbilicus, then it return to abdomen, and if at in the neonatal abdomen, it could be returned to the abdomen. Vitelline arteries that is absent in umbilical term, and that could be celiac, superior, inferior, mesenteric arteries in neonatal abdomen. Vitelline veins that absent in umbilical and neonatal abdomen, it is the part of total vein. Allantois, it is absent in umbilicus, and neonatal abdomen, it could be urachus. Umbilical arteries, both present in umbilicus and in neonatal abdomen, medial umbilical ligament. Umbilical veins, only left vein present in umbilicus, but medial umbilicus ligament present in neonatal abdomen. Umbilical veins, only left veins present in umbilicus, and round ligament falciform ligament present in neonatal abdomen. Undifferentiated mesenchyme, embryonic connective tissue at the cord. It is present in umbilicus and in neonatal abdomen, none of the present. And we can see the pathology that it is described here. Now you can see superior superficial veins of the anterior abdominal wall. On the left are anastomosis between systemic vein and the portal vein via paraumbilical veins. Arrows indicate the direction taken by the venous blood when the portal vein is obstructed. On the right is an enlarged anastomosis between the lateral thoracic vein and the superficial epigastric vein. This occurs if either the superior or inferior vena cava is obstructed. So this is the caput medusae, is the appearance of distant and engorged paraumbilical veins which are seen radiating from the umbilicus across the abdomen to join systemic veins. The name caput medusae originates from the apparent similarity to medusae hair once Minerva had written it into the snake. So this is the superficial vein. Exophthalmos, the small defects may result in the sac being tied off with cord, and large defects need a staged approach. So you can see in this picture there is a large defects. This is the umbilical hernia that present in infant and children. Now we see some pathology more of the umbilical cord. In our 50% babies born in maternity hospital, the stump of the umbilical cord is found to be carrying staphylococci by the third, fourth day post delivery. Less commonly, the stump of the cord harbors streptococci, and epidemics of puerperal sepsis in maternity hospital have been traced to umbilical cord of one infant in the nursery, thus infected. Escherichia coli and Clostridium tetani, another possible invaders. Now we'll say omphalitis. Incidence of an infected umbilicus is much higher in communities that do not practice aseptic severance of the umbilical cord. When the stump of the umbilical cord becomes inflamed, antibiotic therapy usually localizes the inflammation by employing warm moist dressing and crust separate, giving exit to pus. Now we can see umbilical granuloma, chronic infection of the umbilical cicatrix that continues for weeks cause granulation tissue to pout at the umbilicus. There is no certain means of distinguishing the condition from an adenoma. Usually, an umbilical granuloma can be treated by one application of the silver nitrate followed by dry dressings. Umbilical fistulae is a central abdominal scar. It is unstable that a slow leak from any viscous is liable to take to the surface at this point. Added to this, very occasionally, the vitellointestinal duct or the urachus remains patent. Consequently, it has been aptly remarked that the umbilicus is creek into which many fistulous streams may open. So anomalies connected with the vitellointestinal duct, these are umbilical fistula, intra-abdominal cyst, and the intraperitoneal band, and Menkes diverticulum with a band adherent to the sake of the congenital umbilical hernia. Ophthalmocentric duct, vitellointestinal duct occasionally persist and remain patent. The resulting umbilical fistula discharges mucus and rarely feces. Often a small portion only of the duct near the umbilicus remains unobliterated. This gives rise to a sinus that discharges mucus. The epithelial lining of the sinus often becomes everted to form an adenoma. Sometimes both the umbilicus and the intestinal end of the duct close, but the mucous membrane of the intervening portion remains an intra-abdominal systole. With its lumen obliterate and unobliterate, the vitellointestinal duct provides an intraperitoneal band. This is potential danger because intestinal obstruction is liable to occur. Such a band contract and pull a Menkes diverticulum into a congenital umbilical hernia. Now we can see patent urachus. Patent urachus seldom reveals itself until maturity or even old age. This is because the contraction of the bladder commences at the apex of the iron organ and pass towards the base. Because it opens into the apex of the bladder, a patent urachus is closed temporarily during micturition, and so the potential urinary stream from the bladder is cut off. Thus, the fistula remains unobstructive until a time when the organ is overfull, using due to some form of obstruction. Now we'll see the neoplasm of umbilicus, umbilical adenoma or raspberry tumor. This is commonly seen in infant but only occasionally later in life. It is due to partially unobliterate vitellointestinal duct, mucosa prolapsing through the umbilicus gives rise to a raspberry-like tumor which is moist and tend to bleed. Malignancy, secondary carcinoma at the umbilicus is quite common but is always a late manifestation of the disease. Primary neoplasm is often situated in the stomach, colon, or ovary, but metastasis from the breast probably transmitted along the lymphatic of the round ligament of the liver is sometimes located here. So these are all about the umbilicus. Now assessment question is the explain caput medusae and explain umbilical hernia. Thank you.